When Krauss makes this comment of religion being outdated and it's counterproductive. Now, guys, come with me on this one now. If you guys were getting mellow-headed there for a moment, I want you to just try to check back in with me for a second because this is important. When Krauss makes these kind of ignorant, anti-historical claims, they need to be confronted. They just need to be confronted. You see these audacious, bold claims made by these popular atheists many, many times. And if you just don't know history, then you just aren't thinking and considering and like how irrational that is. The institutions and the history that gave Krauss his degree and his perspective were developed by Christianity, by the Christian worldview. And that is a fact of history. It cannot be ignored. So when he says, like, it's counterproductive today, it's like, well, you mean the worldview that gave you the nation that you're in, it gave you the ideas that you hold to that are just very good ideas? You mean the worldview that developed the world in the way that it is now because of the Christian worldview? Watch this. Here's the thing. It's not an accident of the Christian worldview. It's not just happenstance that the Christian worldview developed Oxford, Cambridge, Yale, Harvard, all the rest. It's not an accident. Like, it just happens to be the case that those institutions were created by Christians on the basis of the Christian worldview as Christian institutions to spread the gospel. It's not an accident that science was given rise, modern science was given rise out of that. It's because explicitly of the Christian worldview. When you look at Isaac Newton and all of the things that he was doing when he was appealing to the Christian worldview in terms of all the work that he was doing and pointing to Bible verses, that's what grounded his discovery. And when you look at all the Christians in history, the famous Christian scientists, not the cult, but the real Christian scientists in history that gave us what we have today in terms of technology and modern medicine and all the rest, it's not an accident of the Christian worldview that we got all of that. It was directly derived from it, even down to really interesting stories. I actually think this is one of those like, oh, that's funny. Like, that's really cool. Like, you wouldn't think you think it'd be deeper than that, but it is. The guy who created anesthesia. Like, that's an amazing story. Like, hey, guess what, guys? We get to get knocked out now for like very serious surgeries. Why? Oh, just a little thing called the Book of Genesis. Because what happened was this guy was realizing, like, it's horrible to watch these people go through this torture. Like, we're just giving them whiskey and stuff. They're alive and well and awake during these operations that are extraordinarily painful. It's horrible to watch other human beings suffer in this way. But hey, if whiskey's what we got, or these other medicines is what we got, then it's what we got. Like, what else are we going to do? And so this guy is reading his Bible, doing his devotional. He's in medicine, and he reads the Book of Genesis, and he's like, this is interesting. When God is doing this massive surgery on Adam, Adam's not awake while God's removing the rib. God puts a deep sleep over Adam to perform this surgery and to remove his rib. Now, if God knocks a guy out to remove his rib, and we're just cutting him open while they're like wide awake, he's like, then we should probably try to do what God does. Now, I find that so
Incredible.
amusing. Because who comes to that conclusion based off a text in the Bible? So it's like even little things like, hey, Lawrence Krauss, not only have you benefited from the Bible, the Christian worldview, for everything that you're doing now in terms of physics because of the Christians who gave it to you and the Christian institutions that gave it to you, but hey, how about this? If you ever have to have something removed, you need to also praise God for that, Dr. Krauss. Because it's because of a Christian, a person in medicine who saw in this biblical account of what God did when he did a surgery on somebody that he said, we need anesthesia. So praise God for anesthesia, and specifically praise God for the Book of Genesis and that narrative for anesthesia. It's just, I can keep going.
Powerful.
We can go all day long on this stuff, but that's the kind of thing that we experience today is we just don't even thank God for these blessings. We don't even think like, oh, it's no big deal. Counterproductive? How about the basis of everything that you have today is because of Christianity?